All right.
You guys plan up, don't worry.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to InvertiCast. I am Leah, with obviously you know me from InvertiCast and Trench Leah. And we have Simon from the Mantis Garden and a wonderful special guest, Jackie Below, who is a Master of Science and an entomologist with the Butterfly Pavilion. And yeah, like
a bunch of other stuff.
yeah, just wonderful. She's actually even a doctorate candidate at the Colorado State University. So, welcome.
Thank you.
We're so happy to have you.
I'm great. This is great to be here. I love any chance someone gives me to just, go off about spiders. I'm totally okay with that. So.
Absolutely. Well, and this is definitely that place. So, yeah, it's so much. We love chatting about it. I love having guests on the show just because it's, it kind of diversifies our show a bit and helps kind of, people understand what we do and what we love. And so that's kind of why we're here. Excuse my voice. I am a little froggy. There's been, I'm sure there's been that cold and cough stuff going around. So I'm a little meh. But I have a voice, so we're going.
Keep going forward. It's fine. No, I go to 3 different college and university campuses plus the Butterfly Pavilion throughout the week, and I'm surprised I'm not sick all the time. So wow. Totally every cold that's going on, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm aware there's a cold going around. So you sound fine.
That's awesome. Okay, so my first question is, how did you first become interested in entomology, and how did you decide that was your field of study?
Oh, well, I've always really liked bugs. I was that kid that collected bugs. I felt personally attacked by season 4 of Stranger Things.
Oh, yeah.
We were watching it, and I turned to my partner really slowly, and he's like, "That's weird." And I was like, "I feel personally attacked," because I was that kid. My grandfather owned a restaurant. It was like a truck stop, but they had, they'd get these big things of mayo and ketchup every week. And when they were done with them, he'd rinse them out, and I'd go outside and collect bugs and keep them until my mom found them and get rid of them. So I would kind of, was that kid. And then I actually had another career before I went to college. I was a non-traditional student, or I guess I am a non-traditional student.
Sure.
I worked in film and television for years as a writer and a producer. Completely swung the other way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I worked in writing and stuff like that for television. And then when I was 25, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I went to school, and I was like, I don't know what I want to do. And I always loved biology, so I started that. And I did my internship during undergrad at the coroner's office, and did my capstone thesis on maggot activity.
Oh wow!
In cadavers.
That's incredible.
If you like weird crap, come talk to me.
I like it. I think that's fascinating.
Yeah. So when I was doing my master's, I worked with wasps, and then I was like, I want to do spider stuff now. So that's pretty much it.
Awesome. That is so cool. I've always been really fascinated with how or what kinds of insects break down, corpses, and how that kind of happens. And I don't know if you're aware of the show Bones, but they have, I love his character. I think he's one of the best characters on that show, the entomologist. He always finds the specific bug, and then they're like, oh, this body came from here. And it's so cool. So cool. So kudos.
We actually we have, so I did some dissection with the Denver Museum during my master's, as a volunteer, because I can field dress a squirrel really quickly. I don't know. I can skin a squirrel real fast. And nice. I worked with domestic beetles a lot. And actually, I'm co-parenting some domestic beetles right now with my friend. So he keeps them in his house. You have some? Do you have domestics?
Yeah.
I'm constantly on the lookout for everybody had a tank of flesh-eating beetles in their house.
You keep them when you keep roaches or crickets, and they eat the dead bodies.
Oh yeah.
So
we keep them with the roaches too. Yeah, they'll clean up after them, and we don't have to worry about them then. It's super helpful. And then we were doing it with the ones we have now. I'm I just want to get the colony going, so I can swap them out with my roach colony, because they were getting a little inbred. in the roach colony.
Oh, whoops.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I had them wild, so I probably should get some new genetics in there. And yeah, we would like cleaning it. I was like, I don't work with vertebrates, but if you find vertebrate stuff, let's clean it. So I've kind of been venturing into beetles.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, beetles are fascinating. They're one of the largest and most diverse genera or classification of insects. So that's like 1 in 4 insect is a beetle.
Yeah.
If you want to watch entomologists fight, find a Hymenopterus and find one of these beetles.
Yeah.
Roger that.
So I think you're like, I think that. To watch them fight. It's funny.
Oh, that's great. Simon, did you have a question you wanted to ask Jackie?
Who, me?
Yeah. It's your turn.
Oh, right. No, I didn't actually. I was going to let you two waffle on, and then I was just going to, tell you how much I didn't like spiders in between. Spiders. They're awful. That's
all right.
Like I said, I'm just going to wing it. And when you come up with a subject that, I'm okay with, I will quite happily jump in. I did have some question about butterflies, but she's already said that she prefers the spiders. So I'm out of questions with spiders. They're creepy. They've got 8 legs, and I've got loads of them over there, and I like them over there.
It's actually pretty funny because I keep teasing Simon, like, "Hey, so did you ever find that chromatus that you got running around your house?"
I actually haven't got. I've got my feet off the floor right now, just in case.
Just in preparation.
Yeah,
probably. That's the one thing.
Now for a couple of months, and we've not seen it. Hopefully, one of my mantises got it. But
oh my gosh,
if they haven't, then still here somewhere. Could be eating anything because there's all sorts of things escaping here. So, it wouldn't starve to death in here.
Like in the spider room, we have what I call the free range spiders. They're the wild ones. We're like, great, if the crickets get away from us while we're feeding, they get caught in the corner and get eaten by that spider because
absolutely. Absolutely. I actually have. I think I still have a. I have what in my versicolors enclosure. There's like this tiny little. I don't know what kind of spider it is right now, but it looks like a little yellow sac spider. But it's just hanging out on the total opposite end of my tarantula's like web and everything. So he's got a little buddy. It's kind of fun.
Roommate.
Yeah.
Housing's so expensive these days.
How can you afford rent? Yeah.
Talking about the spider side of things, like, are you into true spiders or are you into the horrible ones with the hairs?
Tarantulas.
Prefer.
So most of my research right now is with tarantulas. So I look at it kind of all. There's a lot of them. Look, they can hear you. We don't want to discourage them.
Yeah. Come on now.
I won't show you the sturmies because they're like 11 inches. So.
Oh, I bet they're beautiful.
They're gorgeous. They're very velvety looking.
Could you explain the difference between a true spider and a tarantula?
Yes. So one of the major differences is how their fangs can move. So if you want to like picture it, tarantulas, their fangs kind of move this way, and then true spiders, their fangs move like a hinge. There's also their webs. So tarantulas can't make the variety of silks that true spiders can. We say primitive, meaning like closer to the ancestral source. So it kind of looks more like the ancestral species. So megalomorphs, which includes tarantulas, are more primitive. They look more like early spiders would have looked, where true spiders, I mean, you don't want to say more evolved because they're just as evolved as everything currently alive right now because we all made it. So it's kind of a misnomer with evolution. Things are like, oh, it's more evolved. I mean, it's more, changed since the original basal species, but
okay.
But yeah, they're just a little bit more primitive, I guess. They have fewer silks. They aren't just terrestrial. They don't only live on the ground. There are arboreal tarantulas, but they're not going to build like an orb weaver would with those, big webs and use that as their primary source of catching food, essentially.
Right.
So yeah, the big difference is, just how primitive they are, and then their fangs, and those hairs. The setae they have are for New World ones. Well, Western Hemisphere. Try to get that started. Western Hemisphere species. You say
I know
old.
nobody knows New World, Old World anymore. I don't think that's really how we talk.
Yeah, I'm like, to who? New to who?
Yeah. Good point. Good
It's
point.
like us and entomology and anthropology still say that, and that's it.
Yeah.
With the Western Hemisphere species, they do have those urticating hairs. Urtica is just hives, and they do cause hives. I have been haired by a molt. I know better than like if they start kicking, I'm like, nope. Yeah. Oh yeah. And I had a beautiful rash for 2 months. Yeah.
I've had a couple of those from my brachypelmas. They are masters at hair kicking.
Yeah, I had to. Well, my wife keeps tarantulas.
Well, where's your wife?
She keeps them, and she took out a molt and left it on my table, and I cunningly, because she thought the isopods might eat it, I just picked up the molt and put it in the isopods, and then after that, my hand was driving me nuts. So yeah, the hair.
Yeah. And they look so cool. Like there's I love finding papers on them. A lot of papers on urticating hairs are actually from ophthalmologists.
Oh wow.
Because people get them in their eyes, and then they have a great case study. But the ones that are actually about the tarantulas, they'll get really great like electron scanning microscope images of them, and they look like harpoons. There's various types and subtypes, but in general, they're like this long shaft and this barbed end. And to see that, you're like, oh, that's why.
And that's how I explain them also, like to my friends. They're saying, well, what's an urticating hair? And I said, they're like tiny little harpoons that the tarantulas kick, and it's a defense mechanism,
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes sense. That's cool.
It's cool to look at them. It's not cool to have them. When I did have that hive, like those hives, I was like, oh, this looks number one, like I have a skin disease. And then
I would imagine it would be really painful to get them in your eyes, or
oh yeah,
that doesn't sound fun at all.
I've avoided that so far. So that's my goal in life, to die having never had that happen.
Right? I'm with you. So speaking of your favorite arthropods and inverts and stuff, do you have like a favorite one to study?
To study? Oh, that's hard, because I don't want any of them to feel bad. But so right now I live in Colorado. It's where CSU obviously is, and Butterfly Pavilion.
The Rams.
And yeah, they keep saying me like, do you want to go to a football game? I'm like, not really. I went to a lot of football games as a kid. It's just cold. Don't want to be like. But we are doing a lot of work with the Phonopoma henses here in Colorado. So Colorado does have two species. One's on the eastern side of the mountains, and one's on the western side of the mountains, because that's a perfect, biological barrier. This is like giant Rockies.
Yeah.
We get to go out to the prairie, and I know like the shortgrass prairie isn't everybody's cup of tea. It's very hot or very cold, and it does kind of have this like dustlates, but it's kind of this gorgeous dustlates kind of, it's just very bare and sparse. And I've had a really great time being out in the prairie with them and seeing that, like getting to see wild tarantulas, which is something I feel like a lot of people that even keep them don't get the opportunity to do. So yeah, I've really enjoyed that. I keep like a running list of things. I'm like, oh, that's a great, because we get master's students in and stuff at the Butterfly Pavilion, and I'll be like, oh, that's a good idea for a master's student to do a research project on. So I kind of jumps around on what species I'm obsessing over at the moment. Definitely doing work with the P. metallicas has been awesome. We're doing some conservation work. In fact, if anybody is interested in donating P. metallica molts to get sequenced.
Oh, that's amazing.
I can give out my email. I was like, shoot me an email. I'll let you know.
I have one P. metallica, and I'm actually waiting for him or her. I don't even know if mine is a male or a female, but I'm actually suspicious that mine might be a female, just because she's taking forever and a day to get like to her adult size, which is weird. Yeah. So I'm kind of concerned.
Yeah, we're trying to look at assurance populations for them. Since they do have, number one, just a limited range, as a species. And that is one thing that can put you like on the endangered species list. Anyways, they are critically endangered. And like, obviously I keep tarantulas. I realize all of these spiders are the descendants of spiders that were taken from the wild. I'm not naive in that. Like they didn't wander into, a breeder.
Yeah.
I realize that is what happened here. But
of course.
And with the Metallicas, they've been really affected by agricultural activity in the area, like with palm oil plantations, but also with poaching. And an assurance population for invertebrates is challenging because with like a rhino breeding program, you breed a rhino, you have a baby rhino, you raise the rhino. If you breed invertebrates, you have tons of babies. And it's hard to get facilities on board with that because they don't want 100 baby spiders to take care of that they have to individually feed, like they're not on board. So what we're trying to do is build a system where accredited facilities like that are AZA accredited, like Butterfly Pavilion or Denver Zoo, or the university, can work with private keepers and just have a organized breeding program to keep the genes moving and stirring the pot and not getting too much deliverance kind of activity in breeding going on, to keep them healthy and also provide a healthy, sustainable supply of captive bred spiders. Best they could do to drive down, poaching and to drive down importing. It's just provide them cheaper captive bred. So that's part of my research too. So I've had a lot of fun working with them and being like, oh, these are really cool and nobody really knows that much about them, and kind of seeing and doing the genetics on it's always fun. But
I think that's fascinating. So you said there's 2 species of tarantula that are native here in Colorado. I know of the Aphonopelma hensi, but what's the other one?
It's the onyx. It's the ANAX.
Really?
I'm saying that right? Yeah, I never pronounce anything right. I have a very Midwestern accent. I figured out I was saying, when I was talking to my students, I was saying mitosis and meiosis, and my Midwestern accent made it impossible to tell the difference. So now I have to say mitosis, mitosis.
That's really I didn't know that the Aphonopelma anax came all the way up here. That's fascinating.
Yeah, they're in this like Sky Island areas. In southwestern Colorado. They're very reclusive, and like I would love to do research with them, but apparently even like tracking them down is challenging. Brett Hendrickson's a researcher in Missouri. He did his PhD here in Colorado, and he did some work with them, but it's challenging to track them down. It's a lot harder to find them, where with the Aphonopelma hensis, I can go out in the prairie and kind of wander around for a little bit.
They're usually in the same kind of, yeah. That's fascinating. That's amazing. Okay, so, well, my next question is, and you kind of answered it, is have you been involved in any expeditions or discoveries or new descriptions of any kind of inverts or?
So most of my work isn't taxonomic, so I don't do a lot of descriptions, but hopefully soon we'll get the paper out. Doing stuff with the hensies, there's just not a lot of information on them. I've had to. It's kind of funny when you're trying to see what's the oldest paper I can cite. The oldest paper I've cited with the hensies is in the 70s. I was well, there's one paper about them, and then and there's 1999. There was a paper.
Wow.
And then nothing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of an empty hole of information about them. I guess there's the reclassification 2016. I guess that counts as a paper. But we are working with looking at burrow architecture.
Oh, cool.
So looking at seeing how they're living there. It's not fun in the prairie all the time. It is pretty rough. Yeah, it's hot and cold.
And there's
really
no shade. There's no shade.
No.
Yeah.
The prairie has no chill at all.
No, not at all. Not at all.
It is. I will say, the first time I went out in the field, I was with one of my advisors, and I didn't drink enough water. I did throw up in front of my advisors.
Yeah, no.
That's classy.
And that's one thing, I preach to people who are gonna, come and visit Denver, come and visit Colorado, make sure you're drinking lots of water because the elevation will zap you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and like the prairie in the summer when we usually go, it will start out freezing in the morning. It's just so cold, and it just escalates so fast. And by 11, it's over 100 degrees, and you're sweating, and you're trying to get away from the sun. So that is one thing that we were looking at, is like they're surviving there all year round.
Yeah.
There was one cold weather paper about tarantulas that was in South America in the Andes, and then they showed like they weren't. So some invertebrates will produce like glycogen. They'll produce like sugars. They'll produce antifreeze in their hemolymph.
Wow.
What equates to blood. Yeah. And it will keep them from freezing solid. They looked at that with this species in the Andes, and didn't appear they were doing that, but they were still okay at cold temperatures. And we were like, oh, maybe there's something with their burrows. Also, what do their burrows look like? So we did plaster Paris molds and dug them out last year. And I'm kind of working through that paper and trying to use blend. I had to learn to use Blender. That took a while.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's been really neat. Like looking at how. So I was shocked because they were like 2 feet deep. These burrows.
Oh wow.
Were. Yeah. So
wow.
That was probably the coolest thing I've found so far.
For sure, because I mean, I know like fossorial species they burrow very, very deep. So it's interesting that even our terrestrial Faunapelmas are like, oh, we're just going to keep burrowing.
Oh yeah, we were digging and I'm like, it can't be, like we were pouring the plaster and then I'm like, why is this not filling up all the way? And then it kept going and going, and then I'm like, okay. And the first time we dug one out, it took about 7 hours.
Wow.
I know what we were doing. And yeah, it was crazy because it was so deep. And then we found like there seems to be 2 models, like it's like trachomes.
Okay.
So one's really long and those are the deep ones, and then there's sort of the shorter ones. In the longer ones, there was a lot of like remnants of egg sacs. So I'm wondering if those aren't the females that are digging the deep ones. Yeah.
That makes sense.
It might be for humidity. Yeah, it might be for the humidity, or it is like 1,000 degrees on the surface.
That's fascinating. No, yeah, right. That's really cool though. Like that's just incredible. Like I can't imagine that the males would burrow very deeply, so that it kind of makes sense that the females have the deeper burrows.
Yeah, they have more time to expand on their home.
For sure, right? That's cool. Okay, so how challenging would you say it is to be a female in your line of study or in your line of work?
I will have to say, for arachnology, I am very proud because at last I heard, 61% of the AAS, so the American Arachnological Society, is female.
Oh, that's
or
killer.
Identifies as female. Yeah, it's awesome. It's kind of like shark researchers are mainly people that identify as female. So it's like, oh, this is fantastic. Like we get to have one area. I don't know. With sharks, I have even less of an idea. But with there is kind of a Riot Girl feel with spiders. I will give them that.
I agree.
Yeah,
totally. We're a bunch of alternative punk chicks,
It's a little bit that is true. I was at the pavilion one time and like a guest came in and they were with the curatorial head and I was just in the office and she's like, oh, this is Jackie. Didn't say what I did there or anything. And the lady's like, oh, you're the one that studies spiders. And after she left, they're like, yeah, they clocked that real fast. I was like, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Thinking about it, you're saying that about females. I obviously sell books, and the majority of my customers are women.
That's fascinating.
So that just sort of like goes along with what you're saying, is like it seems as though more women are interested in books than men in reality. You know? And you wouldn't think that, because it's people that crawling, they're everything a woman is supposed to not like, and yet the other thing that, like I say, the majority of my customers are female. I think that's fantastic. The thing is, the majority of the YouTubers, for instance, book YouTubers are male.
Yeah.
So it's had these females need to stop being so bloody shy. I think.
I agree.
That's just a problem they've got. It's like they're just being shy and not speaking up, not starting groups, not doing this. So the men are end up with like, look at the top of the pile. But
all the credit.
by experience of selling them it's definitely women, and I'd say it's a good 80% women who are buying bugs, and only 20% men.
Wow.
So there you go. Unless it's just my bugs, because I don't sell the horrible ones like tarantulas. Isopods and sticking sex plasmids and praying mantis. Women tend to. I've cracked it, haven't I?
Well, I mean, in recent years, there has kind of been a big a push for women and females or female identifying to kind of join in the STEM, studies and what do we call that? Like and professions, because young ladies and stuff like that, they've noticed that there's kind of this disparage between men and women in the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So there has kind of been a decent push. Sorry about him.
No, I love it. Like, I want a cat.
Yeah. But there has been kind of a decent push for young women or females to join in on the science fun. So I think that's fascinating, and I'm really glad to have you on the podcast, because then it kind of helps those young ladies say, this isn't something that you can just dream of. You can definitely do it. Like, this is something you can do. So yeah.
When I think too, like, and I still see it sometimes, like, with I don't have kids. I don't want kids. It's not like I don't have kids.
Sure,
I don't want them. I have a room full of spiders.
Right, that's kids enough.
Yeah, like, this is great, and I can leave them alone for all day, and the state won't mind. I can only feed them once a week, and the state won't mind. But with younger students that we have come in, or kids I talk to, my friends' kids, a lot of the time, like their daughters are just as interested, and they think it's just as cool, and they want to go out and like hunt for spiders outside and look for bugs. And then there is sort of this kind of culture. I don't want to say cultural, but like cultural in that, like, this community you're in, where like older women will sometimes be like, oh no, that's gross, or they'll be like, oh, I don't want to touch it, that's gross, and they'll kind of act grossed out by it. Yeah. And then they'll act that way. And it's like, oh, I think this might be learned. This might be a learned behavior that cuts off that interest. I was lucky. Well, my mom certainly didn't want bugs in the house. She didn't like snakes either. And one time I asked her why, and she said, because they're slimy. And I said, okay, clearly never touched a snake.
Right.
They're so slimy. And I was like, I think if that's true. I was like, I don't think you ever touched a snake, actually.
Well, they look slimy, but they certainly are not.
She never investigated enough to figure out if that were true or not.
That's funny. Oh, I love it. That's so funny.
Yeah, but I think with the bugs, like, as long as there isn't a kind of pushback from other people, they're like, oh, that's gross, that's weird, right. Or they're not acting repulsed, that won't really develop as frequently. I'm sure there is some, because with primates and snakes, like, primates and snakes seem to mess with each other a lot.
That's interesting.
So yeah, we just harass the other animals. I don't know. Humans are the worst animal. I gotta be honest.
Yeah, absolutely legit.
But with snakes, like, there is some kind of built-in shape thing, like, you'll kind of easily train towards it. But
right.
Some of my research is on that, like, why are people afraid of spiders? And we don't really know why. But some of it definitely possibly could be like they're just learning to be afraid of them. There are other primates that we know will, even if they're trying to be quiet to avoid predation, they could be killed. After the predator's gone, they'll act scared in front of their offspring to train them to be scared of that thing. So it might be that you learn to do that and you go, oh, well, everyone else is afraid, so I should be afraid. And you just kind of not like them. But if that never kicks in, it's really weird. It's such a, I could have a soapbox.
No, I love it. And I actually do feel that it is kind of a, like, ancestral, what do we call it? Generational knowledge, if you will.
Yeah.
That we just kind of pass down to one another. Like, oh, okay, because we do know that there are some pretty deadly spiders in the world. obviously, one of the most dangerous here in Colorado, we all know, is the black widow. So anytime anybody sees black widows, they freak out and they think, oh my God, my life's in danger. This black widow is going to kill me in the middle of the night. And it's like, well, no, not necessarily. No. They're actually pretty docile. And the only reason they would ever bite you is because they felt threatened in some way. And so, yeah, I mean, but I think that probably comes from that, like I said, that generational knowledge of somebody somewhere, and it happened enough. Somebody somewhere got bit by a spider, and then they had a huge infection, or they died, or something. And so just through the years, we just kept telling our kids, like, stay away from the spiders.
Oh, yeah. And even with the widows, they're not that bad. I think there's been, this sounds, once I say it, you're like, well, but there was. There hasn't been a death. There hasn't been a death from one since, like, I think 2011. I don't want to.
Was it 20? I read somewhere it was 1984.
Oh, was it? Maybe
yeah.
Well, in the U.S., not in Colorado.
In the U.S.
I'll double check. Yeah, I'll double check. But like with that, like the biggest question I get people is like, how do I not get bit? Like, are they going to crawl in my bed? I'm like, well, don't go in your garage and stick your ungloved hand into a dark hole you have not investigated before. I make that a general rule to not stick my hand into dark holes. I don't know what's in there. And you'll probably be okay. Yeah,
you can't hear Jackie. You're fine.
Well, if you, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say same.
You can stick your hands in dark holes here. You'll be fine. But as much as you want, close your eyes. It's fine. Nothing here. Nothing.
Yeah, you guys have the cutest spiders in the world, though. You guys have the little velvet guys, the Erisis.
Ladybirds. Yeah.
Yeah,
Ladybirds.
And they're cute. I would, I'm one of those. I'm tempted. I would want to touch them very badly.
You can't actually. It's actually illegal to touch them.
Yeah.
So there you go. You can't protect it. So.
But they should look so adorable if they don't want to be touched.
Right. Like, come on. If it's not a friend, why is it friend shaped?
I don't like spiders. It's just tarantulas I don't like.
Yeah.
It's everyone says that's topsy turvy. Say, tarantulas, no, they're easier and they're not as fast and scary and venomous. But I prefer the true spiders to tarantulas. I think the tarantulas just look creepy. And I got put off them when I was a kid. I got put off of tarantulas and never liked them. But the other spiders, fine. It's okay. I mean, you used to have a great big pot of like cellar spiders. I don't know what you call them, daddy long legs, is it? Or something?
Yeah, daddy long cellar spiders. Yeah.
I used to have a big pot of them there to because I had some mantis that actually like spiders, which is cool. I'm just breeding jumping spiders now, so I can feed the babies to the mantis.
Oh, are you kidding me? Don't tell me that.
I don't know how to feel about that. Also, the mantis needs to live, so I feel weird.
They have to eat, don't they? They have to eat, and why not?
Yeah. Why not? Like with the snakes, people be like,
flies, spiders, doesn't matter.
Yeah, with the snakes, people are like, how can you feed the mice? Number one, the mice are dead when we feed them to the snakes because we don't want the mice to kill the snakes. And number two, like snakes gotta eat too. So,
right. Yeah. Everything's gotta eat, right? That's how it is. That's how it is. Okay, so
I don't think jumping spiders are cute and fluffy. But,
they are.
Yeah, it might be, but they're also obviously tasty. So what do you want me to do about that?
And they do get eaten by a lot of things. Like they don't. I mean, they really, if they bit us, jumpers bit us, there's nothing they really is going to do because their fangs aren't long enough to really get through our thick human skin.
Right.
They're kind of, aside from jumping away, a little bit on the defensive most of the time in the wild. They're kind of they can kind of jump away. They can kind of wave around and try to look bigger. We're actually working on like a project I'm working on with one of the master students with mimicry with them. Like maybe they're trying to mimic other and more or less approachable arthropods because they themselves aren't going to have the protections of like larger spiders or even orb weavers. Smaller orb weavers might not have as bad a venom, but they have the big web and they can shake the web and make themselves look big. Where jumpers are kind of on their own. So they are
Yeah.
cute, but I also understand, like, I like prairie dogs too, but I understand prairie dogs are just like Lunchables for most of nature.
All right.
Cute, they're fuzzy, and I see coyotes kill them all the time.
Okay, so this is actually a pretty good segue. We were talking about, people being afraid of spiders. But my question is, what do you wish that non-invert people or non-entomologists or non-arachnophiles like us, what do you wish that they knew about insects?
I mean, there's a few things I encounter a lot. Is one of them is the more pervasive problem in conservation.
Okay.
Where humans look at us. Sorry, distracted by bugs.
No,
I got a shirt that said easily distracted by bugs. Don't wear that. There's a bug.
Right.
Look at her. She's so happy.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful.
Oh,
thank you, Simon.
Thank you.
She's been there all the time.
We didn't even know.
Oh, no, you can look right in there and then you can't see the mantids sometimes. It freaks me out. I'm just like trying to find them in the tanks at the pavilion. I'm like, where are they? And they're just like right in front of me, and I can't see them. It's so amazing. But yeah, with conservation in general.
There you go.
Oh wow.
Is that focused? I don't know. I can't see it, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but I probably should be sitting that close to the camera. Wow, she's gorgeous.
No, right there. Right there is perfect.
She's got wings on everything. She's like ready
beautiful.
To go.
She just actually lives on my ring light.
Oh, that's cool.
Ow! And she thinks my thumb's lunch. She don't want to get off now because she's annoyed. But yeah, I'll leave her there.
More mantids.
Yeah.
I kind of want more mantids now. Oh my god! Oh no.
Absolutely. I mean, mantises they're so cool.
Free roaming. It's like wherever you're standing here, you can go that far and you're going to be able to pick up a mantis. So yeah.
Like her little box.
Species. Maybe. Carry on. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, with conservation, people tend to pick winners and losers. It's kind of that is what so some of my work deals with like non-charismatic fauna, and that's basically animals people don't like. Where charismatic fauna would be people like them.
Cheetahs,
some of it is
tigers.
Yeah, pandas. Pandas are kind of an evolutionary dead end, in my opinion. We've already had a large mammal that only ate bamboo, and Gigantopithecus, and it went extinct. But pandas are cute, right? Like it's kind of chaos when they're little, and they look like a teddy bear, and everyone loves them. So people tend to invest more, either just getting the word out or financially or however in their conservation and in trying to promote saving those species. Where with invertebrates, there's kind of this feeling like, well, they're bugs. So I don't want bugs around. I don't, if you say like a spider's going extinct, people are like, okay, I don't care. Not realizing, right? No, they'll be like, great, because I'm going to eat it when I'm sleeping. Number one, you do not eat spiders while you sleep, because the number of things that would have to occur for that to happen are astronomically impossible. Number one, you have to sleep with your mouth. Oh yeah, you'd have to sleep with your mouth open all the time. Number one.
I mean, I know a few people who do, but
all the time.
I don't know.
And then you'd have to like lack a reflex if something's in the back of your throat to like gag and to want to vomit or to choke.
Oh, okay.
You have to lack that choke. Yeah.
I've woken myself up like snoring before, so pretty sure. That makes a lot of sense. That if something gets in your throat, you're gonna.
Yeah, but spider
so many innuendos ready that it just wouldn't be appropriate.
No, keep that, Simon. You keep that to yourself.
Just stop.
Because I have a lot of jokes.
Please.
You're so silly.
I got to give it. I got to give a talk for Valentine's Day at the Pavilion about arachnid production. It was super fun.
That's actually where I got your information. I hate to sound like crazy stalker, but I was like, hey, and they were doing a cool talk, and I wanted to be there really bad. But yeah, so then I was like, hey, do you want to be on the InvertiCast? But yeah, go ahead and tell us about that, because that was really cool.
So harvestmen, which we like, are daddy longlegs. They're not spiders. They're their own little group. They mate in the most awkward way. I can't fully to Google it, and then whatever targeted advertising is trying to preach, she's going to have to do with those keywords. But they just have some very interesting mating habits. So that was pretty funny, explaining to a room full of people. Luckily, it was an 18 and up talk.
Yeah, right?
Like exactly how that goes down, because it gets a little awkward for like some of the species that have nuptial gifts. That would be the clue, and it's
Oh, that's interesting. Spiders do that?
So many rare species of harvestmen here. It's unbelievable.
You're not going to want to look them in the eye after this.
Certain, like some places, it's just in one town, you'll find this particular harvestman species, and it's like
wow,
amazing. There's loads of them here. There's so many different ones that I have seen. What you're suggesting. It is weird.
Do they just clump together? Is that what it is?
Yeah,
because I've seen them do that.
Some do, and some don't. It's some are like solitary. Some just in a great big lump.
Okay. Yeah, they do really well with like cooler, wetter environments, and so where there isn't going to be larger other arachnids, they can move in and they can really thrive there, so they can kind of fill that niche. They can fill that job.
Sure.
Yeah, but they do mate in a way where once you know, you can't look them in the eye again. I know I get to talk to us like, enjoy your ride home, not looking anyone in the car in the eyes.
Yeah, right.
I just told you. Sorry, but I definitely have ADHD. But yeah, with the conservation, that is one thing with invertebrates I wish people knew. Also, there is a lot of, I wouldn't want to say, I do see this being a keeper and then also being a researcher. There's a lot of kind of division on that. Like, number one, in the US, conservation laws are the least enforced laws. So no one's going to come take your bugs. You probably shouldn't have animals that you shouldn't have. We recently learned that in Colorado very well, didn't we?
I don't know.
Did you not hear about that?
No. What?
In Lakewood, a guy got bit by his Gila monster that was not supposed to. He wasn't supposed to have, and he died.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah,
holy
it was the
cow.
first U.S. death from a Gila monster since 1930.
Oh my gosh! I didn't know. I'm gonna have to look that up because that sounds crazy.
It was weird.
I know that I knew they were venomous, but I didn't know like how venomous they are. But that's wild. Okay.
Yeah, it was really weird. I was like, oh, that was like when I heard about it, that was kind of a thing.
In the back of my mind, I'm also thinking at least it wasn't a venomous snake. Like,
well, yeah, and he knew like they do have ornaments, and if you're just responsible and check and make sure you're okay. Like, I love hog noses. I would love to have a hog nose. We can't have them. We can't breed them here in Colorado, and so I don't want to take a wild one. So I'm gonna go enjoy them when I see them outside, and then that will be it. But so the Gila monsters are similar. Their venom's similar, where they have to kind of like bite and then like grind it in. Okay. So apparently it got a hold of him pretty good, and
it must have. Holy crap!
It's like down near Mexico.
Yeah, I think. Let me look at their exact range. I have to be that like, really precise.
New Mexico, Texas, and around that area.
Yeah, and they are an animal where, like, if you see them, they're very bright. And if any animal is that okay with you seeing it, like, the kind of the idea should probably be like, maybe don't touch it.
Yeah, that's nature's cue of like, I am really dangerous.
Just be like, you know what? Not gonna touch it. It's probably fine. Where is their distribution? So they are. Yeah, you're right. So they're in Southwest United States, Mexico, across ranges of the Sonora, Arizona, and parts of California, Nevada, Utah, and New Mexico.
I didn't know they came that far up. I didn't think they came that far up, but I knew there was
Utah. Yeah.
They're not here. Yeah, they're not really here that much. We do have part of the Sonora in Colorado.
Yeah, right.
The very top north part. They're not native here. And we don't want people to have them in their house. Because we don't.
No.
Yeah. But there's that thing with like this division with like research and keepers and kind of a feeling like, oh, well, if you're doing conservation, you're going to make it so I can't have these things. And
Sure.
that is something I don't like, because I feel like this is the best way to get more people interested in them, is for them to see them. We call our house Discount Zoo. I've had friends
cute.
like, it's a discount zoo. They'll bring their kids here. They're like, "Can we see your spider room?" Like, they don't want to hang out with us. Like, our friends don't want to hang out with us.
I do the same thing with my red tail, my red tail boa, and I have friends who their kids are curious about snakes and interested, and they're like, "Do you have a really big one?" And I'm like, "Oh, yes, I do." And I bust him out, and he is just the most sweet and charming little guy. Well, not little, but but he's sweet and charming, and everybody loves him once they get to see just how, calm and really like cool he is. And so, yeah, I agree with you on that. Like, Discount Zoo, like that's my house too. Absolutely. And you know us, like we're happy to bring people in the house and be like, "Oh, look at this one, dude, this one is really cool," and then we want to tell them all about it. So yeah, that's awesome. I agree that.
Yeah, and it does kind of help. Like, ironically, my best friend is terrified of bugs. She doesn't want anything. She came to a cadaver class I was in.
Wow.
And was totally, she was like, "I'll put up with it. This is okay." And she was like, "Put up with that." I was like, "Want to go see the spider?" She's like, "Absolutely not." I was like, "But the dead body that we were cutting up, that you were okay with." Okay.
Go figure.
She put up with that. No, it is kind of cool to see, we'll have people come over, or actually the beetles that I'm co-parenting, the person I'm co-parenting them with, was someone that we met, that had come over to take care of our dogs, and they saw the spiders and liked the spiders, and I don't know if they were that interested in the bugs before. They were vet, so I don't know, but they got into it, so I'm like, great, I got somebody into bugs. Or we'll have people that my partner works with, or I work with, that aren't bug people. We'll get to show them pictures and stuff. So this is a great way to get people involved. And it's a great way to get, them close to them without that apprehension of like, "Oh, okay, there's a spider in my garage, and I'm gonna go look at the spider in my garage, but it could run at me." I mean, here they're in enclosures. The enclosures are decorated as nice as the tarantulas. We'll let them stay decorated because they don't.
Right. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well, it's a positive experience for them too. So you're kind of like instilling that positive interaction. So I think that's really killer.
Yeah, it's a good way to get people to, like I said, to get people to see them, and to get people engaged with them and talking about it, and seeing they're not gonna pull a knife on you or something.
Right.
They're not gonna. And I'm totally for people being able to keep them. I like keeping them. I think it's a good way for us to see them. Keepers have a lot of information about them that we could use in research. Tons of information. They're around them all the time. They watch them. They are caring for them. And that goes for really any invertebrate. If you're breeding, keeping them, you probably have seen breeding behaviors that researchers have not. That probably with the mantids, that's definitely true, right? Like, you probably like, "Oh, that was interesting." And the people that are doing these things are passionate about these animals. They don't hate these animals.
Right.
And I mean, yeah, 100%. Like, both of you obviously have them, and if you're breeding them, and the mantids are sometimes very challenging to breed. I've seen, because the eating does happen sometimes a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, give her a fly to eat, and hope. It's a rough scene on Tinder for a lot of invertebrates. Is kind of the.
Sure.
I have actually put females on Tinder. I've actually done the effort for Tinder, put them on there. Catch potato at the Mantis Garden, if I remember, the last one was, and it's like looking for male, maybe a one night stand, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Tinder a good time, not a great time afterwards.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that's the thing, is like, if you talk to people that have invertebrates, they'll tell, they'll report things that we won't be able to see, because in the wild it's hard to find them sometimes.
Right. Right.
And then like standing around being like, okay, I'm going to wait for the spider to walk by and mate, and then I'm going to try to record and not scare the hell out of them.
Right.
Is hard. We will go down there for breeding season, down to like La Junta. La Junta actually has a tarantula festival, which I definitely recommend everyone go to.
Yeah.
It's super fun. So much fun. Trying to really push La Junta on everyone. But if you like, oh yeah, like I'm going to try to go down there, and the males will still court females when you're kind of standing over them.
Cute.
But, yeah, but if you're like, you're also giant.
Right. So I mean that's very scary for them, I'm sure.
Yeah, where if you're in, we've seen invertebrates in captivity act similar to the way they do in the wild. You get to see sort of their rearing habits more, how they're going to take care of their young, where they want to lay eggs, sort of those micro habitat selections,
Right.
how they grow. You're not going to keep finding the same invertebrate in the wild, probably. With tarantulas, it's a little bit easier, but for the most part, you're not going to keep finding the same one to track them their whole lives. So you can't really tell, like, what are they eating? What are they not eating? What is their nutritional needs? We can't do that in the wild. So this is a way for us to have so many eyes on these animals, where otherwise that would possibly be the case. We can't all like try to recruit a ton of students to like, stare at them all the time. Some people are willing to do that. So
right.
And I really, right. And I want to encourage like keepers and breeders to be like share that information, and also for researchers to accept that information.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's not peer reviewed, but
that's the hard part, getting the researchers to accept information of people who spend 24 hours a day with them, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The researchers won't accept that. They are more interested in what they found in a control group in a lab. It doesn't matter if you've bred this 100 times, they're not interested. And that's something I really, really, really annoys me greatly about. Because I've read so many papers that are actually incorrect. And I can't fix them. I'm not allowed to sort of do anything about that. So this is like, you can type it in Google, or you can read an official scientific paper, and they're both wrong. So where does that leave people about knowledge?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. That's actually why I started doing my PhD research with the tarantulas. Is I was gonna be a good little scientist when I was keeping them, and I wanted to. That's what led me to want to do it, and then years later I was able to do it. But I was gonna be a good little scientist. I was gonna look them up and make sure I was keeping them correctly. And there wasn't any research. Like, no one had anything. And
so
I was like,
much,
okay,
conflicting information online, and so it's very, it's difficult to really, really know solid information. But I love that idea, because I think that the hobby and the research should definitely be like collaborative. Because we know we've been doing it for a while. We've been like, I've noticed with a lot of like my Salmopus and the tappies, or the Tapinocinus, they tend to, because we call them arboreal, but they love to burrow. Like, they love to just dig dirt and use that dirt in their webs and everything, which leads me to believe that they actually are living on the very base of the tree in the wild, rather than like up high.
Oh, my joke is like, if someone says it's semi-arboreal, I mean, somebody saw it on a tree one time.
Right?
Somebody saw it on a tree one time? That doesn't make any sense.
Which is, that doesn't necessarily mean it's arboreal.
That's great. I was also saw like, a couple, like a person in a tree, and we are not arboreal anymore.
Yeah. Right.
And that's the thing with a lot of them, like, and what I'm trying to do with this conservation breeding program is provide incentive, number one, because for facilities, and we've had this problem at the pavilion, especially when we're kind of in between groups of interns and stuff. I do a lot of breeding for them. I've been fairly successful. Like, no one's gotten hurt. So no,
that's great.
Got hurt. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, this is slightly different. We bought a Dollar Tree spoon, and we call it sex spoon. Just to keep him away. Spatula. The spatula and the spoon are really helpful. But like they do produce a lot of offspring. I tend to leave the egg sac with the mom, because she has all day to put new soak on it and rotate it and find the right humidity. I don't. And she might cull some of them. That does happen. just because you don't have 200, 300 babies because they're all top quality. It's just gonna happen. So she might call some of them, but we get them out, and after she kind of opens them up and lets them out, and we can have all of them in the facility. But now there's 175 individually housed babies that we're going to have to put fruit flies in the refrigerator, have them, go into torpor, bring them back out, kind of give who we can before the flies wake up again, and like rotate out flies. And exactly. And that's the thing, is there are people who are willing and have the passion, not willing, they have the passion to do that of their own volition. Nobody's paying them, like outright to do it. There's other ways to make money than well, you can make money. Yeah, you could make money getting on Etsy and selling other things, or you could just wait for the bugs to die and pin them and probably make a lot of money. Like,
absolutely, right? Like, yeah.
And sitting there like breeding them and finding the mates and finding, timing them so that you have males and females around at the same time, because that like tempora separation. That's somebody who is willing to record data for you. That is citizen science at its peak, is someone willing to passionately look after what you are researching and be part of your research group and record data and share that with you and discuss the topic with you and come up with new hypotheses and new observations to bring in and to build that information. Where if you're like, if you're keeping them, you're contributing to them being brown boxed, you're contributing to them being taken out of the wild. Number one, if you're breeding them, you're not contributing to that at all.
Right.
And if you're keeping them and you're giving them to people and helping record all this information, that is one thing I'm very confused by. It's like, I don't see that enough, where, I'd love to talk to both of you, actually, if you're interested, like, let me know, because I'm always trying to get these projects started. Yeah, projects started with the mantis too would be really interesting. And just to see, because of the number, you have a good number, you have a good experimental a group, and you have that number to be like, okay, I can record what I see, I can film them doing things, I can, and we don't see that. It's like, why would you not be like, hey, do you want a partner? And I can provide sort of the the facility, there is something to be said about like, I can tell you like the biochemistry and stuff. And I'm someone else who's also passionate about it. And like, we can buddy up with that and then have a group of people that are, I have a whole soapbox about this.
No, I love this, because I do think that we partnered actually a couple of years ago, possibly, with a Avicularia. And I lent you my female.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember that.
I think she was, kind of an older female, and she just wasn't having it. So
they have about a 20%. What I've noticed, there's about 20% success rate for breeding, which is actually slightly better than humans. Kind of unencumbered. Humans would, every time humans copulate, it would lead to offspring about 15% of the time.
Wow.
So just unencumbered, that would happen.
But
the tarantulas seem to be, it's kind of, it's also like, well, it's only 50% of the time. Yeah, but it's also 15% of the time.
Right.
Everyone's like, oh, that's it? It's like, well, yeah, but, that's a lot, actually. Maybe don't run that risk.
30 years now.
I was like, maybe don't spin that wheel too many times.
Yeah.
But with like the spiders, it's about 20% of the time, which does mean, you do need to get babies, pair them a lot, but or at least 5 times, with other males and females. But like, once you have the offspring, or even if they're mating, you still get to observe that, and you get to and one other thing I would love to do is like with breeders, just for a variety of invertebrates, we have, when you're doing research, you can kind of share equipment more within the university and everything. Mm-hmm. And looking at supplying people that are breeders and keepers with the equipment to get really good data recordings, to get I'm very curious a lot of times, like, what does it sound like? It sounds so creepy.
Yeah. No, I think that's really, I think it's important work. And I think that, having, people in the hobby and stuff, that's actually, I was told by a friend of mine who works at the Denver Zoo that through those conservation efforts and through programs like that, that there are a few species who have been saved from the brink of extinction thanks to like private keepers who were willing to collaborate with the Zoological Society and the researchers and that scientific community. And I think there's something to be said about that. That's huge.
Well, yeah, and even with like when you're trying to run experiments, I mean, people don't want you experimenting on other animals. If you're doing things, and I try to, and with invertebrates, it's weird. There's not, except for, unless you're an octopus in Europe.
Sure.
There's no standard of care.
Right.
Research. Yeah. So like mice, they have to be kept in like, there's only this many mice per this size of cage. They're fed this often. It's cleaned this often. There's a lot of rules and which there should be to maintain the most humane conditions given the experiment for that animal.
Right.
If you're an invertebrate, no such thing unless you're an octopus in Europe.
That's
Very
wild.
specific. Just Europe decided octopus, we're going to make sure they're treated okay. But when you have, questions about like ecology of, how is a different feeding or nutritional needs going to affect these animals? How could inbreeding affect them? As we see that a lot with invertebrates, especially with human activity kind of splicing up their habitat, you end up with these islands, and some of them are more productive than others, but they can't cross in between. So you end up with isolated populations. We saw that with vertebrates too. But these questions, or even in prey selection, like how are they hunting? What are they hunting? When are they hunting? Are they doing anything specific with their food? Are they selecting certain prey over others? Like you have people that are like, yeah, I'm going to feed them. So I'll just let you know.
Yeah, right.
And if you're willing to be like, okay, yeah, if you're willing to be like, hey, here's how you have to like do it so everybody can analyze it correctly. I've never, ever encountered keepers or breeders who've told me, oh, I don't want to do that. They're always like, yeah, absolutely. And they're like totally on board. And I'm like,
Yeah.
who is not standing out there like, anybody want to help out? Anybody want to help out?
Yeah, I find that's definitely something in the invert world that is really great, is that a lot of us are really happy to help with that research. But I hate to say it, but we've come to the hour mark of our
I'm a
podcast.
little bit of a talker, so
No, you're wonderful. We're gonna have you back on because
thank you.
Like you have been a fantastic guest for sure. We're so grateful that you came. But let's do our shameless plug. So this is basically at the end we we just promote something, like whatever you've got going on this week or upcoming in the future. You could just go ahead and give it a shout out here and have at it.
Can I have two shameless plugs? Because one's for
Absolutely.
research and one's for people might join. So May 11th, if you're in Denver or, well, technically Westminster, I'm doing I'll zoom you in, Simon. I'll zoom you in. I'm doing a talk at Butterfly Pavilion for Mother's Day about invertebrate mothers. So there's definitely going to be mantis talk.
Oh, cool.
So please stop by the website, go to Butterfly Pavilion's website. It's butterflies.org. But you can get tickets there. It's about like an hour and a half in the morning. We're trying to see about like doing like a mommies and mimosas thing, but it's for Mother's Day about invert parents. And then also, if there's no other Jackie Billottis on the planet, luckily, but I don't know if you could put my email up somewhere. If you are someone that has a piece of, look at this. I need to do more. For real though, Simon, we should talk because I think this would be a very cool.
Yeah, I'll trade you.
Made a new.
Oh wow.
Oh, that's so cool. I'll be sure to trade. I'll give you guys both each other's information. Oh, yeah. And then, of course, I will link the Butterfly Pavilion down in the description, and then you guys can check that out.
Yeah, and if you have a Piscillaria metallica, though,
I do.
If anyone has one, let me know. You can send it in. Just email me, and I'll send you instructions on like collecting it, and you can also see who your spider's relatives are.
Oh wow!
From other donated molts. So we're gonna try to do microsatelliting. Sequencing to build a family tree to see the genetic diversity that we have available in captivity currently. Amazing. And build out a family tree for them. So
that is cool. I'm excited about that.
can see her relatives.
Right?
So yeah,
Cool.
definitely if anyone's interested in donating a molt, email me and I'll send you instructions. And you're not autonomized unless you don't want to be, if you don't want anyone to know your name or anything, it's given a number. It's not like we're going to know where you live or anything like that. If you are a business and you do want to be acknowledged in the paper though, or in future talks,
Right?
let me know. I got you on
Yes,
future
Simon.
talks. Yeah. Actually, for real though. No, let me know. For real. Because they also love the mantids over at the Pavilion and they're always,
Oh, yeah.
happy to get. They got unicorn mantids recently and I'm in love with them.
Oh, that's cool.
Sudavati.
All right. Yeah, Simon, what do you got going on this week? Do you have a shameless plug?
I'm going to spend the entire week breeding, I think.
Are you running out of hoops to chase around?
And have a look, see what's going on in here. No, yeah, I'm going to spend the week breeding or pairing or attempting to pair quite a lot of different species. And hopefully I'm going to be potting up lots of devil's flower mantis.
Oh, cool.
Which, sat in a pot next to me. And I'm now melting because I put this on and the heat is here.
I'm going to swear.
Jackie,
I'm really
you're
hot.
excited.
Oh no, I'm like, now I want to learn more about mantis.
Yeah, see, I'm telling you, we're gonna have you on as a guest again. For sure.
That's so cool. That's
Jackie,
so cool.
you speak so fast and your accent is a real struggle for me. I spent most of this podcast like concentrating on what you were saying because I was struggling so much today.
Sorry. I've spent 37 years trying to slow down and
I can see you're so excited about like the subject. So it's like, I was like, oh my God, slow down.
Well, I'm very excited about the mantids you're breeding. I hope that got through. But
yeah, you have to come back and we can definitely chat mantis. Definitely chat Native American mantis because we don't see many over here.
Yeah.
I've had Sudavatis, which is your unicorn mantis. I've actually had them here. But we don't really see any more than that. And I'd really like to know more about your native mantis. When I say native, I don't mean European or Chinese. The other stuff. I'd like to hear about that. So, yeah, please come back on and
thank you.
Tell us about what you've got there.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for having me.
My YouTube channel. That's it. Done. Sorry.
Yes, and you know what? By the way, Bugs Galore says I understood every word. So Jackie, I think it's just Simon. He's the outline. Okay.
Oh, I know I talk fast. My students, during COVID, they were recorded lectures, and I was like, and every student was watching every lecture like 2 times. I was like, good luck if you do that to me. You're not going to understand a word of it. I was like, you got to sit for the whole hour and listen to the lecture, buddy. You ain't listening to that on 2 speed. So.
Right.
Because they were doing that all the time. I was like, oh no, you are spending an hour on that lecture.
That's beautiful. I love it. All right. That's all I've got. So
thank you guys.
Guys, like and subscribe to InvertiCast. Check us out on Spotify and Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. We're everywhere. If you are in, Colorado, Denver area, definitely check out the Butterfly Pavilion. It is like my favorite invert utopia to visit ever. And yeah, that's it. Thank you again so much, Jackie, for being here and being a part of this episode and our podcast. And yeah, I hope to see you again. We'll
absolutely
get together
anytime.
Again.
This is awesome. Thank you guys.
Yeah, I'll have to lend you some of my mails.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
I've got a couple
pairing going on.
Yeah.
Interns also like to watch spiders mate. I don't.
Sweet.
What? College interns like to watch spiders mate.
College interns like to watch. Okay, I'm sorry. That's
and on that note.
And on that note, yeah, no, thank you so much. Have a great day, you guys. Thank you for watching.
Too.
All the love.
Yeah. Thank you.
See you later.
See ya.